My guest today is Tim Edds, partner at Browne Jacobson and a leading expert in public and administrative law with a focus on Welsh devolution. Growing up in Milford Haven with no family background in law, Tim discovered his passion through courtroom TV programmes and fought his way into the profession, sending over 50 letters to firms before securing a training contract. His career has spanned criminal law, in-house government roles, and advisory work for Environment Agency Wales, including defending the Agricultural Wales Act in the Supreme Court. Since opening the Cardiff office in 2023, Tim has grown the team to 40 people, serving elected officials, advising on Welsh legislation, and shaping the next generation of legal talent. Tim's approach is guided by understanding and explaining the Welsh context, proudly operating in Wales for Wales. Tim, thanks very much for joining us today on the No Straight Lines podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's an absolute delight to have you here. We've got plenty to talk about. And your career is very interesting. So you're a lawyer working out of Cardiff for a law firm, which you're going to talk to us about in a moment. But from humble beginnings, your career started off in Milford Haven. And here you are now, the local guy from Pembrokeshire, and you're heading up a big legal practice in Central Square in Cardiff.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a bit of a journey, I suppose. As you said, I grew up in Milford Haven, went to school there. My parents still live there and have lived there all their life. My sister and her family are there as well. And there are plenty of people that I was in school with who were back there as well. So I've still got really close ties back home.
It's a lovely part of the world, Tim, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Very proud to come from Pembrokeshire, and also I know maybe Milford over times has not had the best reputation in terms of when people talk about Pembrokeshire, they talk about Tenby or Saundersfoot or St David's. But with things that are going on the marina in Milford these days, it's a great place to be. There's the new Celtic Manor Hotel and the bars and restaurants that have sprung up from there.
I stayed in that hotel actually. I think it's is it T Milford?
T Milford, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It is. It's really good.
So there's a bit of money going in, regenerating the area. You've got family links.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of money going into Cardiff, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And sort of, I know that was sort of always the place that I wanted to go. I decided sort of fairly early on, I guess, in school that I'd like to try a career in law. My family didn't have any links. We knew solicitors in the town, but not in a way that sort of...
I read something, when I asked you to give me a bit of background information, I read something that you put in that you're actually attracted to law by some of the TV programs that you were watching at that time. It inspired you.
Yeah, indeed. It's not a real unusual story. I think a lot of lawyers have watched something, whether it's, I don't know, LA Law, Ally McBeal.
Yeah.
Showing my age, but for me it was Kavanagh QC. I liked watching. I think it was John Thor at the time.
Brilliant actor.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And so it was the courtroom drama that really attracted me. And probably my mum would say the arguing side. So yeah, I kind of that's what I wanted to do. And careers advice back in the 80s and 90s was probably not similar to how it is these days. So when I said that's what I fancied, the school kind of ticked me off, and that's where I went.
Off you went.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I'm constantly researching and looking at people's backgrounds and the firms that they're associated with. And until I met you recently, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'd not heard of the Browne Jacobson name in Wales. Mm-hmm. Excuse my ignorance. It's a bit of a story because I know that you worked for some time within government, didn't you? And we can talk about that in a moment. But I think you moved into law. And when I say into law, you actually work with, you were commissioned, I think, by Browne Jacobson to take on an employment role around 2018 to spearhead their growth into Wales. But the law firm Browne Jacobson it's all over the UK, isn't it? I've seen their offices.
Yeah.
And I've also seen some photographs that you posted out on social media, which show the humble beginnings, that when you took on that post, that it looks as though you were operating out of the back bedroom of the house or something.
Yeah.
And now you're in these salubrious offices in one central square Cardiff, and all credit to you, you've built a team up from nothing. I think there's about, to date anyway, there's 40 odd people employed, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell us about Browne Jacobson, the reason for coming to Wales, and how you've managed that sort of growth and grown that team from nothing over a period of time.
Yeah, sure. So I was working, as you said, in-house in Welsh Government.
Yeah.
And I worked there between 2012 and 2018. During that time, one of the partners in my team now, called Ben Standing, came on secondment into Welsh Government, and that's how I found out about the firm for the first time. Ben stayed with us for 6 months on a part-time secondment basis, and we got on really well. I then learned that the firm was doing quite a lot of public sector work for NRW, and as well as Welsh Government and other sort of public law focused public sector bodies. So he and I sort of went out for some food and a couple of drinks once he was on his last day, and kind of finished up the night by me having a throwaway comment, really, which was, if you're ever looking for anybody in Cardiff, then give me a shout.
And that's where it started.
Yeah, I'd always wanted, I suppose, to see if I could cut it in a big law firm, because I started my career in high street practice in Barry doing criminal law, moved up to Merthyr and Aberdare when I qualified, again doing criminal law. Slightly larger Valleys practice then, but still high street based. Then moved into NRW to do prosecution work, and then into Welsh Government. But had always had that sort of, what if I worked for one of the bigger firms?
So when you were working in Welsh Government, you hadn't heard of Browne Jacobson, I wouldn't have.
Not until that point, no.
Yeah.
It was only when Ben came in.
How long have they been around?
The firm is over 150 years old. It was in the late 1800s that it started. Began in Nottingham. Has always had public sector roots. Founded in a number of the partners working for the various local government agencies in and around the East Midlands at the time. It's never changed in the sense that it hasn't merged or acquired any firm. It's grown organically from that time. And as you said earlier, we've now got offices in Birmingham, Manchester, Nottingham, London, Exeter, Cardiff, and we opened Dublin as well the year before we opened Cardiff.
So a huge growth trajectory in terms of what's going on.
Yeah.
And well done. I think based on what you just said there, the sectors that when the law firm started, you operated in public sector, and that's a huge part of your work and what the law firm does today, isn't it, in terms of your services. On your earlier career, though, and I find for those out there basically who are just coming out of university or are just looking for sort of any legal training contracts, is an interesting part of your story, because when you qualified out of Cardiff University, I think it's fair to say that it took you a while really, and a lot of hard work, and there was no digital at those times, of course. It was all paper, wasn't it? And yellow pages, for those who remember it, the big yellow thick directory. There you were, scouring through yellow pages, and a lot of letter writing, 50 in fact, 2 replies, and that got you your first post in Barry, is that right?
Yeah, and the way that it kind of came about was a very, I suppose it's a typical Welsh story, if you like. So, I did a 4-year university degree, which was law with French. So I spent my 3rd year in Rennes in Brittany, in the university there. And probably had too much emphasis on the cultural side of things, should we say, rather than the academic. And so when I was supposed to be applying for training contracts, sort of the 2 years before you finish, I didn't really, is the truth. So I came back, did the legal practice course, which was a professional exams, and worked for a couple of firms sort of in the evenings doing work on the miners' claims. And so,
my God.
But I didn't have a training contract to start in. So the course finished in the May, and usually training contracts started in the September. So I didn't have one. It got to August, and I thought, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So that's when I picked up the Yellow Pages and basically found law firms between Swansea and Newport.
And you were
just wrote letters to all of them.
You were probably back home in Milford Haven at this stage.
No, I was still in Cardiff.
In Cardiff.
Yeah. So I came to Cardiff Uni in 99 and definitely wasn't because the Rugby World Cup was being hosted here. I've stayed ever since.
Yeah.
So I've been fortunate to be able to work in and around the city and live in and around the city as well. So sent the letters off, had 2 responses back, and the interviews actually fell on the same day. So I had an interview for a legal assistant post with Eversheds, and went to that, and it was a full day. So there was
big selection process,
massive. There were psychometric testing, group interviews, group projects, individual interviews. Finished that at about 4:00 and was pretty tired because it had been quite a full-on day, but felt like I performed pretty well. And their offices at the time on Callahan Square were pretty new. There was like a Starbucks in there, and it was the first time that I'd walked into something like that, and it was amazing. I then had at 5:30 an interview with J. Hughes solicitors in Barry, and their offices were different.
Were they on the high street?
They were on the high street, yeah, King Square, yeah. And I went and did the interview, and came out, and I had mixed feelings, I suppose.
I bet you did.
Because I didn't really know what was going to come of either of them. Mm-hmm. And I remember speaking to my mum on the phone and saying, after I was walking back to my car from J. Hughes, thinking, just don't know. I'm not sure. But hopefully I've done enough to get me over the line, and I really need a training contract. Anyway, J. Hughes offered me a job, but it wasn't because of my interview in J. Hughes, which apparently was one of the worst interviews they'd had. It was because that evening, the partner who had interviewed me played squash with one of his friends.
Right.
And his friend had said, we've been doing a full day of interviews today. He worked for Eversheds.
Yeah.
There was this one lad who performed really, really well. And we've been looking whether or not we can see if we can find a training contract for him, but we can't. So we're not going to be able to take him on. Partner in J. Hughes said, who was that? So it was Tim Edds. He said, I've just interviewed him. He was pretty awful. The other part of that story goes that he did well. I'd take him if I were you. So I got offered the job in J. Hughes.
Brilliant.
So so I got the job there and started straight away doing.
That's a great story, though, isn't it? You know, in terms of, my God, we talk about small world.
100%. And I mean, but
the odds on that happening
are massive.
And do you know as well, in terms of your performance, you said you've gone to Eversheds, big corporate law firm.
Yeah.
Big statement, Starbucks and everything else underneath it, all the gloss and the frills, perform brilliantly. Then you go down to Barry, high street branch, probably exhausted from the Eversheds experience, and perform.
I was just tired.
Worn out, exactly. And then those two worlds collide, and then you get the job by default.
Absolutely.
What a great story.
But I think that really is symptomatic of the legal community in Cardiff and Wales.
Yeah.
It's small. People know each other. You never know where something or a conversation that you have could lead. And that, I think, is something which is absolutely reflected across the whole of the business community and just life in Wales.
Well, good on you for doing it. And you know, we've all got to start somewhere. And any sort of young lawyers out there or young people who've just graduated from university who are looking to pursue a career in law, and I know it's easy for me to say this, but the process remains the same. You've still got to go through the hard work of putting out your applications, haven't you? And starting at a point somewhere within a firm just to build up that experience and get your foot on the ladder, and then you go from there, I suppose. Yeah,
you have. There are, thankfully, there are a number of other avenues into qualifying as a solicitor these days. So whether that's through Silex, sort of you start as a legal executive and work through and get the Silex qualifications, which can then lead you into qualification as a solicitor. Yeah. Or one thing that we're really proud of within Browne Jacobson is the apprenticeship route. Right. And we're with a number of other organisations.
So how does that work then, the apprenticeship route?
So there are a number of different legal apprenticeship routes.
Yeah.
Some are graduate, so that still requires you to go to university. But there is a level 7 apprenticeship which you can come straight from school.
Wow.
We took part in the Trailblazer project of that in England, and in our team. We've just had Laura Morland qualify in September of last year as part of that scheme. She's been with us 6 years now. She's a tremendous lawyer already. She understands the firm. She understands how to work because she's been straight from school into us. And she hasn't, for her, going to university wasn't an option.
Well, where did she do the education side of that?
So
did she go to college?
You do it as part of it.
Yeah, within a college or a university? Which college?
I think it might have been through one of the local universities within Nottingham, but then...
Oh, okay. Well, it's a great example. So does that scheme exist in Cardiff?
No, that's the big issue for Wales, is that the level 7 apprenticeship scheme, solicitor apprentice, isn't sanctioned by Welsh Government as an approved route at the moment.
Well, that could change, it may.
It has to. And you know, it would be such an easy win, because what's the key to it at the moment seems to be that the government feels like they would need to offer some level of funding to it. But I don't think that really is the case. There are a number of firms across Wales who are big enough and have to employ and pay for trainees in the usual way anyway. If this route was simply opened up in the first instance, then from my perspective, when you look at what we know about Wales's demography and the aspirations and the ambition that exists, and let's be honest, there are big pockets of social deprivation.
Yeah, there are.
We're going to university now and taking on the debt that exists in that isn't an option.
I know our educational landscape has changed, isn't it? Once upon a time, there used to be polytechnics.
Yep.
So, but now it's all university. But so that's fascinating to hear that potentially in Wales, potentially in the not so near future, we may see the opportunity for legal apprenticeships. Well, possibly. Legislation changes.
It's a hot topic. The Law Society in Wales are massively behind it.
Good.
I'm pretty sure that there are other firms out there as well who are as keen as us to see that happen. And the difference that it could make in Wales, I think, would be significant.
Huge. So talking about government in Wales, and I know you said you went from Barry and you were working, and good on you, up in the valleys in Aberdare and Merthyr, and talk about areas of deprivation. Some great people in those valleys. I'm from the valleys myself, but there's been, since the miners, not the miners' strike, but since the mines have gone, since heavy industry have gone, they've been tough places, basically, haven't they, to sort of try and build a life, build a career, get a job, but all credit to those valley people. They're strong people, and they're able to sort of pivot and find new ways of doing things. And I'm sure you saw that when you were up there in Aberdare and Merthyr. There's strong communities, aren't they?
100%. I've got massive fond memories of working up there. It was
characters.
It was an absolutely brilliant place to work. I loved it. So many stories.
Very tribal up there as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and rightly so. I've got...
I'm sure you did great things up there, and then you decided that you were going to come down to Cardiff, and you then took on an in-house role for Welsh Government.
So firstly, I went into Natural Resources Wales to do prosecution.
Ah, okay.
I wanted to try and get back working in the city, and legal aid, criminal legal practice is a tough world, and I worked for a great firm called the Gwyn George Practice, Gwyn George Partnership, or GGP Law as it is now, still going up there, and the partners that I worked for were fantastic but realistic, and they were encouraging of me not to necessarily stay in criminal law. As massively enjoyable as it is, it is the going to court and representing the clients that you represent on there. There's never a dull day. It's a good career, but it has its challenges. And so they were, like I say, they were encouraging of me to see if there was anything else. So I used that as a platform to flip onto the other side, really, and do the environmental prosecutions. And I took a bit of a punt, I suppose, because it was a maternity cover for 18 months that I took with what was then the Environment Agency Wales. And whilst I was there, a permanent place came up on their advisory team. So that's when I stopped doing sort of court work and moved over into the more like public law focused advising on policy and implementation of policy, which is what then enabled me to get the job with Welsh Government, because I moved into their rural affairs team doing that work. And that work spanned everything from the implementation of the European Common Agricultural Policy through to drafting legislation, being part of the team that took the agricultural sector Wales bill to the Supreme Court and won, down back and forward to the Bay, advising ministers almost sort of weekly. And so the experience within Welsh Government was absolutely incredible.
Huge.
Yeah,
Completely different world.
Yeah, it was amazing.
This is a complete contrast to working on the high street in Aberdeen and Merthyr.
It was, yeah.
My God, okay. So we understand, you talk about Environmental Agency Wales. Just for the purpose of what do they do? Just in a sentence.
So the environmental regulator for Wales, Natural Resources Wales now encompasses the Countryside Council for Wales, the Forestry Commission and Environment Agency Wales. So they brought them all together under one banner.
And you were advising on policy, were you?
Yeah, I was doing contaminated land work. There's one of the most contaminated land sites in the UK at the time, called Breviskin Quarry, near Pontypridd.
I know it.
Yep.
So, you can just about see it off the A470.
Yep. So I was advising on the remediation of that. It was when the Environmental Information Regulations and Freedom of Information Act were relatively new.
Let's have a look at your time in Welsh Government then. So you as you said, you found your way into Welsh Government through Environmental Wales, wasn't it? Or you left that post. And this is fascinating. So you then worked in-house as an advisor on policy, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Give us a little sort of insight into the world of Welsh Government and your role in terms of advising.
It's a big legal team. I think now they're nearly 150 lawyers. I think they've got there.
Wow.
When I was there, it was around about 110, 120, something like that. And their teams span all of the different policy areas that you can imagine. And as I said, I was in the Rural Affairs and Marine team, so that covered pretty much everything you could think of from a farming perspective. It's a big team, but in the context of what they have to handle, you have a wide breadth of subject matter that you're advising the ministers on. And yeah, it spanned from everything from advising on policy development through to implementation via legislation, drafting that legislation, working. So when I did the last round of the Common Agricultural Policy for Wales before we left the EU, sort of working with the policy team who were out in Brussels negotiating on behalf of Wales at that point. So I was back in Cardiff while they were sort of in and out of the various rooms and taking phone calls asking sort of, could we translate it this way into legislation? Could it work that way? And then through to judicial review challenges, and also farmers' subsidy appeals. And then, like I said, the sort of the real piece of experience which very few lawyers get to do, and particularly at the stage that I was in my career, was to be part of a Supreme Court case. So what was your role there? What were you doing? The minister at the time wanted to save the agricultural minimum wage, and the legislation that was governing that was being abolished by the UK government at the time. So a bill, a Senedd bill, was produced to make sure that the agricultural wages in Wales as a minimum wage were set and retained. And there was an argument. The argument from the UK government was that the Senedd and the Welsh ministers were exceeding their competency powers based on the Government of Wales Act. And there's a mechanism within the Government of Wales Act, I'm getting a bit techie here, but which allows the UK government to challenge that by way of the Supreme Court, which they did. they said it related to employment by setting a minimum wage. And employment isn't a devolved subject to the Welsh Government. Our argument was, no, it's ancillary. This is an agricultural matter, and is wholly focused on the agricultural sector in Wales. The employment elements of it are sort of related to, but not the thing. And agriculture is obviously devolved in Wales. So that, in a very basic level, is what the arguments were about.
And you won it.
And we won, yeah. And that was it. It had important meaning for what the Government of Wales Act allowed the Welsh Government and the Senedd to do in terms of legislation. And so I was the lead subject lawyer on that. So we had constitutional lawyers from within Welsh Government. We obviously had barristers who were representing us with the Counsel General for Wales, as well as a QC, as they were at the time, acting on behalf of Welsh Government, and a team of lawyers within Welsh Government as well, assisting. So part of a team alongside the policy team, of course, as well. So it was a fascinating experience, and one, like you say, you don't get very many opportunities to have.
And this was at the Supreme Court?
Yep, in London, yeah.
Yeah, what then?
Yeah.
Excellent, okay. Big tick on the old CV box there, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned a lot of things in there. I know we're talking agriculture specific, but you also mentioned in terms of you must have been involved, and I think you stated clearly during this sort of Brexit departures and policy advice in terms of what impact did Brexit have in terms of psychologically on the government of the day in Wales, do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, that, because it coincided with the Senedd election, which was finely balanced in its result. And so there was quite a lot of, there was a lot of discussion at the time between Carwyn Jones and Leanne Wood as to who was going to be First Minister, because it was quite balanced. I think everybody thought it was going to be okay in terms of the Brexit vote actually going on the Remain side. And so I think it had quite a shock, because the level of funding that Wales received from the EU was massively significant, particularly on Objective 1 and from the farming side of it. So within my area particularly,
massive hit.
Yeah, and I mean you're looking now. What are we, 2026?
Yeah.
The new sustainable farming scheme that the Welsh Government have put in as the post-Brexit equivalent to the Common Agricultural Policy is only now taking effect in April this year.
Wow.
So that's, 10 years?
10 years on?
Yeah. And just before I joined Browne Jacobson, I was working on that scheme then. So then, that's nearly 8 years ago. So it's got a massive effect.
It's frightening. It really is, and you were there in the thick of it. Bringing it back closer to home, because, and this is all your world, you talk about Welsh Government, you're still advising in there via Browne Jacobson. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all know that in May, the whole political landscape in Wales could dramatically change. Yeah. And if we look at the polling situation, then it is going to change. Yep. And we're going to get a change of government. How that is structured and who leads that, if I was a betting man, I know where I'd be putting my money. But how does that impact you in terms of Browne Jacobson? Mm-hmm. And how do you think, if those polling figures are correct, how do you think that's going to affect and impact the landscape here in Wales, the political landscape and the economical landscape?
Yeah, so I suppose dealing with the second question first, I think there is going to be a change, like you say, based on the polls. I was at a dinner on Monday night in Cardiff, which was the Plaid Cymru business dinner.
Yeah.
There were over 200 people in the room, all from every type of business across South Wales particularly, and local to Cardiff as well, and major businesses that you would expect to be in the room where you're looking at a potential change of government. It was noticeable. And so they have a fairly committed agenda to bring back what they're terming the Welsh Development Agency 2.0 in terms of pushing on the economy in Wales and bringing that back and listening to business and wanting to try and develop Wales's economy in a way that is collaborative through listening to business.
Yeah.
Now that's a laudable and welcome statement, really. I think one of the things which, having seen how the government works, understanding the legislative framework that they are operating within and have to abide by, it'll be interesting to see how they settle in,
Yes,
and how that plays out, because I imagine they're going to be pretty ambitious and they're going to be wanting to move quite fast in terms of making a difference to deliver on any promises that they've put forward to the electorate. And I think having had a period where, yes, they've had individual ministers in the cabinet and they've done sort of power sharing coalitions at times, it's very different when you are the main party. I think this is a personal opinion, but I think it's quite easy to be on the opposition and say and highlight where things you think should be different and how you would do it differently. It's another thing when you get the keys to the
completely agree
door,
with you.
And I think there's obviously going to be an increased Senedd. So we're talking 96 members. That means that there's going to be an increased ministerial cabinet that they're going to have. There are going to be increased portfolios. That itself, I think, will probably take some time to settle and embed. How they want to govern, they're going to need to take some time, I think, and figure that out a little bit as well. And then there is the other side to it, which probably won't get talked about a lot in the wider piece. The civil service isn't changing its size.
No.
So you're going to have a very new, energetic, ambitious government with a greater number of ministers and ministerial portfolios, but a civil service that has to react and deal with that, having not commensurately increased as well. And they will also be key to assisting the new government in delivering on their ambitions. And the civil service have a very key role to play in all of this, because there are people there who know how the system works and they know how to help people through making decisions, and that decision making as a new government will be key. So I think it's for probably, I don't know, the first time in a very long time, the Welsh politics is very interesting, isn't it?
It's going to change, isn't it?
It is.
The only thing that we don't know, of course, we don't know whether, assuming it is Plaid Cymru then, for example, let's put it out there, that are going to be the largest party in Wales. And Rhun ap Iorwerth is a charismatic leader, isn't he, to say the least, and fills the room with his personality. He's a great communicator. I guess the $64,000 question is, number one, have they got can they govern as opposed to being an opposition? But will they have a majority is the case, isn't it?
Yeah. And the polls are suggesting not quite.
Exactly.
And so, again, then I think saw in the last couple of weeks that they are saying that they're keen to not talk about coalitions and things like that at the moment.
No.
But that might end up being the reality.
Yeah, okay. And I've got to ask you, because you potentially will be a stakeholder in all of this, assuming the government it's going to change. Mm-hmm. Browne Jacobson, Tim, are you ready for these changes? Are you and your team geared up for it?
Yeah, well, I mean, from our perspective, to a degree, nothing changes, because we're, along with a number of other firms, appointed on the Welsh Government Legal Services Framework panel.
Yes.
So that has only recently been reappointed, and it's for a period of 4 years.
Yeah.
So when the new government comes in, we're still
seamless.
Yeah, we're still on that framework, and the challenges that will be faced, and the opportunities, and the policy development, and all of those things won't be new to us.
Well, it's a massive shake-up in Wales, and we're all stakeholders. If we're living in Wales, we are, aren't we, as taxpayers? We're stakeholders. And I think Labour have been in power in Wales ever since devolution came into place. So a massive shake-up on Welsh politics, and whoever comes, if it is Plaid Cymru in coalition, let's hope that that what they say in opposition, that they can actually deliver in a positive way. You mentioned WDA Mark II or whatever else it is. Let's see that if they can actually deliver on what they're pledging. Mm-hmm. Let's hope so. And on a lighter note, let's come back to Central Square, because I know these offices. It's a beautiful place. It's a great location. You've got BBC Wales in the middle of Central Square. You've got other law firms there. There's a lot of money gone in there. When you get off the train these days at Cardiff Central, and I think they're putting some money into that as well. They're going to go in to improve that. When you come out onto off the concourse and you come into Central Square, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly feels like a capital city.
It does, doesn't it? I think the same.
Yeah, one of the other partners in the office lived and worked in Cardiff pretty much his whole life as well. Sent a photo last week after we'd moved in, with how Central Square used to look outside the front of the train station, with sort of you could drive up, couldn't you, and drop.
Remember, yeah.
You get dropped off in a taxi,
the bus station,
yeah,
Astley's Cafe,
yeah, all of that. And so you think it has changed an enormous amount, hasn't it? I mean, the office space is exactly where we want to be in terms of the location within sort of the business community within Cardiff. And like you say, they're
big statement for you.
I suppose it is, yeah, but it's reflective of the ambition that we have for the firm here.
I think you're up to 40, aren't you, in terms of recruitment? So what are you looking to scale to? Do you need to double that, quadruple it, triple it? Or?
We've got 9,500 square feet. There are 70 desks in there at the moment. There's probably room for a few more. We obviously work in the same way as many other businesses these days, on a sort of hybrid basis. So those 70 desks don't mean 70 people. We feel at the moment there is capacity for 120. There are strategies and plans in place to grow the office. We'd like to see that reach triple digits within a few years' time.
It's a great story, actually. Your story is a great story. And the reason I say that, we've talked about Milford Haven, we've talked about your experience on the high streets. And here you are now heading up and pioneering this new, I say new, it's not new to the UK, but it's new to Cardiff in a sense, the presence on Central Square.
Yep.
You scaled it up to 40 people and yeah, it looks great. It does, in terms of, because you're creating jobs as well, aren't you? Jobs, local people into the economy. It's only good for Cardiff and the Welsh economy.
I have to stress, it's not a one person thing, this.
No, of course.
So there's Laura Hughes, who I opened the office alongside back in July 23.
Yeah.
There's all of the new partners and legal directors and team members who've come in since we opened, who have a massive part to have played in the success that we've had over the first couple of years. And then there's the wider firm, right from the very top and across all of the sectors that we operate in, and our departments and teams. I've said this internally on a number of occasions, but ever since we were looking at opening the office and we were talking to all of those people across the firm, and subsequently since we've opened, I've never had a conversation where somebody has said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't think you can really ask for much more than that, because everybody is bought into trying to make it a success. And that's from the top of the firm right the way through. And that's testament to why I joined, really, in the first place.
Seems to be based on values, culture, and the fact that you're able to speak so positively, and tick all the right boxes. Your teammates are going to love you for this, honestly.
But it's true. It's not; these aren't platitudes. It is absolutely the key, and the culture and the environment that we're trying to foster and build within the Cardiff office, particularly, is reflective of the wider firm.
Yes.
But it's at the forefront of what we're doing, because we're still a relatively small team. We've designed the office so that all of the individual teams can work in the same working space together, because we want that collegiate, communal feeling, good good things happen when you overhear somebody over there talking about this, which could feed into something that you're doing. And that we're seeing that happen across the piece in terms of connections that people make.
Well, the challenge is for you because we've all lived through COVID, changed the way that we started to live and work, and getting people back into the office is difficult. But there's one thing for certain, I think you can't deny it. When you get good people in a room and you can listen to one another's conversations and bounce ideas off people and share information, there's huge arguments to still suggest that being in a team environment where you can communicate with real people rather than working from home is a big argument, isn't it?
Yeah, to do. Absolutely.
For all the right reasons, I say, and I understand.
Yeah, and I think striking the balance is absolutely the key on that as well. There are times when some of the work that we do requires you to get your head down and spend a day just absolutely ploughing through things.
Yes.
And sometimes being at home,
you can get
without any distractions, you can do that. I suppose it's not a downside, I wouldn't say, but one of the things that you'll find coming into the office when there is a good number of us around is there are distractions because people get on and they like having a chat. That's great. I got no problem with that.
But that's when bonding and relationships take place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. It is a balance. Listen, we're coming to the end of the conversation, but and a fascinating insight, really, in terms of government, how government works, the political landscape, what might happen, your career and how it's taken you across the South Wales corridor, really, from Milford Haven all the way through to Wales, and you're doing great things here in Cardiff. On a lighter note, now I don't know if you're a rugby supporter, but you'll understand rugby, obviously living in Wales, working in Wales.
Yeah.
4 regions or 3 regions?
Oh my God. That's another podcast, isn't it? That's at least another
Quick
hour's
fire.
worth of chat.
Just emotionally, 4 or 3?
2.
Oh my God. And then my next question was going to be, how would you advise, what would you be saying to the Ospreys, or what would you be saying to Rob Stewart, the leader of the council in Swansea at the moment? But I'm not going to ask you that because you've gone down to 2. My God, that's radical.
I would have gone, I think we had the opportunity to go east-west right after the England game in March last year, when everybody probably felt that they were at rock bottom. I've never been in a stadium like that after the final whistle of that game. It was awful. Get everybody back into the clubs playing in the Super Rugby for their local regions, and then you get to play in Europe and at a higher level for
Welsh rugby is such a goldfish bowl.
It is massive, isn't it?
The legal sector is such a goldfish bowl. But by the time this podcast goes up, I think we're going to get
it'll be done. Yeah. So yeah, that and that comes as a lifelong Scarlets fan. But I think we've gone. I mean, like it's going to be incredibly disruptive what happens now.
What's happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, and you only have to see how. We don't need any more legal processes going through this in terms of.
And here's a lawyer saying this.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Tim, it's always going to be controversial. You're probably better off sticking to advising governments than trying to advise what's going on in Welsh rugby. But it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for coming along today. No straight lines. We talk about stories of the unbreakable. I think that sums up Welsh rugby, really. Let's hope it is unbreakable, and let's hope that we come back even stronger. And maybe a second rising.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for that. And thank you for having me today. It's been a pleasure having a chat.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.